In the heart of New York City, amidst the towering skyscrapers and bustling streets, a man was on a quest to solve a problem that plagued him every single day. His name was Chester Carlson, and his battle was against paper. Not just any paper, but the endless, mind-numbing task of copying documents by hand. This was the 1930s, and if you needed a copy of something, you either wrote it out longhand or retyped it, word for agonizing word. For Carlson, a patent attorney drowning in paperwork, this wasn't just an inconvenience. It was a personal hell. He suffered from arthritis, and the physical pain of constant writing was unbearable. He knew there had to be a better way. His journey began not in a gleaming corporate lab, but in the cramped kitchen of his small Queens apartment. Armed with a mind sharpened by a physics degree and fueled by sheer desperation, Carlson began his experiments. His kitchen transformed into a chaotic laboratory, filled with strange powders, metal plates, and crude electrical devices. The air was thick with the smell of sulfur and ozone. His wife, Doris, grew weary of the constant mess and the strange smells seeping from the kitchen. She couldn't understand his obsession with what seemed like a fool's errand. "Can't you just get a better job?" she'd ask, her patience wearing thin with each failed experiment. Carlson's idea was both brilliant and, at the time, utterly bizarre. He was fascinated by a field called photoconductivity, the property of certain materials to become more electrically conductive when exposed to light. He envisioned a process where he could project an image of a document onto a charged, light-sensitive surface. The dark areas, the text, would hold the charge, while the illuminated areas would lose it. Then, a fine powder could be dusted over the surface, sticking only to the charged parts. Finally, this powdered image could be transferred to a sheet of paper and fused with heat. He called it electrophotography. The theory was sound, but making it work was a nightmare. For years, Carlson toiled in solitude. He poured his meager savings into his project, facing setback after setback. The powders wouldn't stick. The images were blurry smudges. He experienced small explosions and electric shocks that left him dizzy. His friends and colleagues thought he was crazy, chasing an impossible dream. He was a lonely warrior fighting a silent, thankless war in his own kitchen. The world, it seemed, was perfectly content with its carbon paper and typing pools. By 1938, after 4 years of relentless failure, Carlson was nearly broke and on the verge of giving up. He decided to hire a helping hand, a German physicist and refugee named Otto Kuhne. Together, in a small, rented room behind a beauty salon in Astoria, Queens, they prepared for one last, desperate attempt. The date was October 22, 1938. It was a day that would either mark the end of his dream or the dawn of a new era. Carlson took a glass microscope slide and wrote the date and location on it in India ink. 102-38 Astoria. He then prepared his equipment, a sulfur-coated zinc plate, a piece of cotton cloth, lycopodium powder, which is a fine, yellowish powder made from clubmass spores, and a piece of wax paper. The process was painstakingly manual. First, he darkened the room. He rubbed the sulfur plate vigorously with the cotton cloth to give it an electrostatic charge. Then, he placed the glass slide on top of the plate and flooded it with bright light for a few seconds. The light passed through the clear glass but was blocked by the ink. With trembling hands, he removed the slide and sprinkled the lycopodium powder over the sulfur plate. He gently blew away the excess powder. His heart pounded in his chest. There, clinging to the plate, was a faint, powdery mirror image of his writing. The moment of truth had arrived. He carefully pressed the wax paper onto the plate, then heated it gently. When he peeled the paper away, he stared in disbelief. There it was, a perfect, permanent copy of his original note. 102 to 38, Astoria. He had done it. After years of failure and ridicule, he had created the world's first xerographic copy. He and Cornet looked at each other, stunned into silence. They had just made history. But Carlson's celebration was short-lived. The invention was crude, the process was messy, and nobody wanted it. For the next 5 years, he approached more than 20 of America's biggest companies, including IBM, General Electric, and RCA. He demonstrated his miraculous invention, showing them how he could copy a document in seconds. And every single time, he was rejected. They all said the same thing. Who would ever need this? We have carbon paper, and it works just fine. They couldn't see the potential. They saw a messy, complicated process, not a revolution. The rejections were brutal, piling up like the stacks of paper he so desperately wanted to eliminate. His dream, once so close, was slipping away again. Just as he was about to lose all hope, a breakthrough came from an unexpected place. In 1944, a non-profit organization called the Battelle Memorial Institute in Ohio saw the potential in Carlson's work. They agreed to help him refine the process. A few years later, a small photography paper company from Rochester, New York, heard about the invention. The company was called the Haloid Company. Its president, Joseph Wilson, was a visionary. He saw what the giants of industry had missed. He saw the future. Haloid licensed the technology from Carlson and Battelle, and they poured all their resources into developing a commercial machine. They renamed the process xerography, from the Greek words xeros for dry and graphos for writing. It was a bold gamble for a small company. For over a decade, they burned through cash, teetering on the edge of bankruptcy as they tried to build a machine that was simple and reliable enough for an office. Finally, in 1959, 21 years after that first dusty copy was made in Astoria, they released the Haloid Xerox 914. It was the world's first fully automated, plain paper photocopier. It was the size of a small desk, weighed 650 pounds, and sometimes caught fire. But it could make a copy in 7 seconds at the push of a button. And this is where the story takes its most surprising turn. Joseph Wilson and Haloid Xerox, as the company was now known, were terrified their machine would be a flop. It was expensive, and they weren't sure businesses would buy it. So they came up with a radical business model. Instead of selling the 914, they would lease it for $95 a month, which included the first 2,000 copies for free. Additional copies would cost just 5 cents each. They thought customers would make, on average, a couple thousand copies a month. They were wrong. Utterly, completely wrong. The Xerox 914 wasn't just a product, it was a phenomenon. People didn't just copy what they needed to copy. They started copying everything. Memos, reports, recipes, cartoons, articles, anything they could get their hands on. The copy became a new form of information. The cents per copy model that was meant as a safety net turned into a gusher of unimaginable profits. Xerox became one of the fastest growing companies in American history. And Chester Carlson, the quiet, arthritic patent attorney from Queens, who was once ridiculed for his crazy idea, became a multi-millionaire, earning royalties that would be worth billions today. But here's the final, quiet twist in the tale of the man who changed the world from his kitchen. Chester Carlson was not a man driven by a desire for wealth. He was driven by a problem. Once he had the money, he gave almost all of it away, quietly and anonymously. He donated over $150 million, the vast majority of his fortunes, to charities and foundations. He lived modestly, never forgetting the years of struggle. He was a man who saw a universal frustration. a friction in the flow of information, and dedicated his life to solving it. He didn't just invent a machine. He unleashed an idea, democratized information, and in doing so, reshaped the modern world in ways he never could have imagined. And it all started with a simple note, written on a glass slide. 102 to 38 Astoria. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as we did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more incredible stories of innovation. See you next time.